So I started doing a few of these. I did one. I should have brought the first one I did, but I used a different kit. But I've switched to these crush grind mechanisms, and they come in like, I think this is a 17 inch or something. They come in at 10 and I think a 17. And from Craft Supplies, they run about, I think they're about a little over $16. And the 10 inch one's like $16.50, and the bigger one is $16.80 or something like that. So there's really not much of a difference in price. And you end up cutting these down to the right size after you turn your pepper mill anyway. So I tend to buy the longer one just in case, but to be honest with you, I probably just need the smaller ones is all I ever need. But so anyway, this is the mechanism I'm using. It's called a crush grind mechanism. You can use it for pepper, for salt, or different spices, stuff like that. So it's one that's kind of universal. Some of the other kits you can buy are specifically pepper or salt or spices and stuff like that. But this one is I think it's a ceramic mechanism, and I want to say it's got like a 15-year warranty or something like that. Anybody know about these? Or they last a long time. Anyway, they do good. One of the other ones that I had too, that I bought one, is right here, and Blake actually brought one in right here. And so he brought in a finished one right there. And and this is probably a lot easier than what I'm going to do. But Blake said, and my dad Bob said that he's done one too, and one of the hardest parts is to line up this top piece right here. And so, but other than that, it's pretty slick. Just a hole drilled through there. Blake, go ahead.
The instructions tell you to do a 1-inch hole.
Yeah.
7/8, so I had enough for those screws to bite on the side without spinning it out.
Very good. So, do you mind if I pass this around, Blake?
No, go ahead.
Okay. So I'll go ahead and pass that around so people can look at that one. And then I'll pass this one around as well. So I kind of had to figure out how to do this design like this. A lot of the you can do a different design with like a ball on top and stuff like that, and that's like a lot of the if you go to Craft Supplies website or their YouTube channel, they have like a video on how to do it, but theirs is different. They do it differently because it's like a ball on top, so it has a defined top, where this obviously has a defined top, but we're kind of hiding that top, especially if you can line up the grain like that. Then it's a little bit harder to decide where that top really is with those lines. So anyway, that's what we're going to do today. I'll go ahead and pass this one around too so people can see it. This one is off by just a little bit, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. Blake?
Also, you're talking about the length of that shaft.
Yeah.
On the other one, Woodcraft makes a kit that has 4 different sizes
Yeah.
of shafts inside, so you can pick which one you want. You still might have to
Sure.
trim it down.
And that was one of the first ones I did. It has a defined length, and you have to make it that length. Otherwise, the little knob on the top that adjusts basically the tightness for the grind doesn't work right. So, yeah. Oh, okay.
Bumping here.
Good. Okay. There you go. So, but anyway, I've gone to these crush grind ones. I really like them. I've made probably, I did 5 of them or 6 of them for Christmas this year, and I've made a handful of other ones. But anyway, so the key really on this is to get this finished product to where, and this one doesn't have the lines to hide the top, but to get this all lined up to where when you turn it, it kind of stays lined up. And that's kind of the trick of this. So I'm going to skip through some steps. Obviously, you'd start with a block, maybe a little bit longer, and then you would turn it to round. And then in this case, I like about 2.5 inches in diameter on the ends, and so I usually turn them down to about 2.5 inches, and then about 2 inches or so in the middle, but those are just rough and kind of, I usually start at 2.5 on the two ends, and then from there, just turn down the middle to kind of what looks good and go from there. So I turn it down, put a tenon on it. I have this huge chuck right here. This is a little baby chuck that came with a kit that my dad gave me with the lathe, and I actually have really come to really like this little baby chuck, but it's kind of nice. But anyway, so turn the tenon on it and put it up there, and we got it like that. So that's where it would be. I cut some of the process out of that to for time's sake, I guess, but we'll start there. So after we turn it there, then we're going to take a 1 3/4 inch Forstner bit, and we're going to drill this hole 3/4 inches deep. I have this tape on here just as a reference already, so I don't have to worry too much about it. And so we'll start from there. And this is already like half as slow as the slowest setting on my lathe at home. So this goes a little bit easier on this than the lathe I use at home, but so I'm just going to bring that right into that tape line right there. And that's it for that hole. And that's just the bottom of the pepper mill. Now, this kit also does take a couple of unique sizes of Forstner bits. This one is a 1 9/16. And that's the this is going to be the hole that'll accept this piece right here. So that's why it's kind of particular that you need that size. So this one, you're going to drill down 2 1/4 inches from this bottom. That accounts for that 1/4 inch I already did. And so I have that already measured out. And this one goes to the bottom of the tape rather than top of the tape. So right about in there. Oops, I didn't need to eject that quite yet. Now, we're going to start to drill the shaft of the pepper mill. So we're probably going to, on this one, probably going to drill right in here, about there. That'll give us a pretty good amount. And then once we'll flip it around and then we'll drill the rest of the way through the other direction. But for now, that's about how we're going to do that. Oh, sorry, this is a 1 inch for the shaft. Oops. Just going to kind of spray that out a little bit, get the sawdust out. Just going to clear the shavings out. As far as the tailstock will go. But I'm almost there. All right, that's about as far as we're going to go with that one. So one of the things with doing these pepper mills is kind of finishing, sanding and finishing as you go. Because it'll be hard to put it back on the lathe once we part things off, or it's just easier to sand now. So, just going to clean that out a little bit, and I'm going to sand this up a little bit. So inside right here doesn't really matter too much unless you're flipping it over. You could see that right there a little bit, but I usually kind of just round that off a little bit. And I should have said beforehand, it's pretty important to try to get that real flush, because when we turn it around we need a flat surface to mount it to. But I'll just run through the grits real quick. Now, as far as finish goes, you can really use anything you want. We're not finishing anywhere where the pepper is really going to be, so it's just going to be wood, bare wood in the middle. So I use this called Pens Plus right there, and it's it's walnut oil, shellac, and some synthetic wax in there. And this is just a wax it's what is it? Abrasive paste. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, homemade. So we'll just turn up the speed here a little bit as we do this. I'll put my hand here so I don't flip it out to you guys.
So that's very small ladder rocks, and what else?
Yeah, diatomaceous earth, mineral oil, beeswax. I just repeated what he said, so it's on the. I know how it goes when we edit the videos, and you can't hear always the questions and what they are. So I don't know how I know that, but I've experienced that a few times. I don't know. So this is where I'll just apply this finish here first, get this done. So this bottom of the mill will then be done. This is probably the part of the mill that's probably going to be worn the most. It's going to be sitting on the table or whatever, so probably something you want to do a number of coats on. Okay. So I've done a lot of these, but I made a list of things to do on this. My dad said when he did his, he made a list. And then when he got done, he says, "Oh, I didn't do that, and I didn't do that, and I didn't do that." But so I'm just gonna make sure we got everything here. And then one of the things I mentioned about 2.5 inches I like on the bottom and close to that on the top. I like about a 10-inch long mill too. It seems to work out pretty good size-wise. You make it. You mean like this one? Well, so you're really thin. So you see on the camera there. This was kind of a challenge. There was a piece of wood that we said, "Wow, that'd make a really nice mill," but the problem was it was about this size square, and so when you turned it around, that was it. And so then when we drilled it with this drill bit right here, that 1 3/4 for that bottom hole, that's what we had left. So pretty thin at the bottom. So you got to make sure it's going to be bigger than that. So all right, we did that. So now I'm going to kind of decide where the lid's going to go, where the line's going to go. And I don't have a pencil, but I have a pen. So I'm going to go like somewhere in that vicinity, about there. So I'll just mark that. And one of the things that I've recently started doing on these is to put a small tenon right here. I used to try to line it up with this and try to make this fitting fairly tight in there, and then I would turn it. But it seems like I've gotten better results with making just a little tenon there, and then a little acceptance groove there for the tenon to be accepted, and then it turns pretty nice. So that's what we're going to do right there. Yeah, really hard. And in the crush grind mechanism, when you get it, the instructions call for a 1 1/16 bit to basically make a hole for this to fit in that would align, but we found you just got a little wobble in that, more than I like. And so I'm still going to use the 1 1/16 bit, but it's just going to create a hole to that to where this doesn't bind in there. But anyway, so the tenon is something that I stumbled across on a YouTube video that somebody's kind of making the same style that I've been making, and so I started to incorporate that. Now on that, I'm going to make the tenon. It can vary on the size. Obviously, this one's much smaller because the wood's much smaller. But on that one that Blake has, I think, and generally most of the pepper mills that I'm making now, what I do is I make the tenon just slightly larger than about 1 3/8. And then I'll take a 1 3/8 Forstner bit and drill that, and then I could just open it up to accept that. So that probably does it have pepper in it, or? Oh, thanks. Yeah, so this one's a little bit bigger. Shows you there. And then, and this one I just sanded out to make it big enough so that the white top piece doesn't interfere with the turning mechanism. This one's pretty tight to push on there, but it turns pretty good. So okay, so we're going to go 1 3/8. Oops. So I have this just slightly larger than 1 3/8, so I can measure that out. All right. So now that I got my shield on, I'll take that off a little bit. I don't know if that'll interfere. Okay. What's that? Oh, yes, thank you. Yeah. Yeah, this does definitely help keep it straight. So this tailstock here, excuse me, this tailstock happens to just fit right inside that 1 3/4 hole that we drilled, but it will stop where before the 1 9/16 hole that we drilled. So it does a really nice job of holding it right there. So. So I still got quite a ways to go. You know, if you got a really cool piece of wood that's got a lot of grain running through it, sometimes you maybe want to make that tenon fairly small so you can keep that grain lined up when it's when it's finished like this. You know, so that grain lines up all the way around, but okay, so that's close enough to where I think I want to be. Maybe just clean it up and straighten it up a little bit. And while I'm here, I'm just going to undercut this. I'm going to undercut this just a little bit, and I'm going to undercut the lid just a little bit, so there's not so much friction on when they're rubbing. Okay, now I'm going to start to part this off. So I just have my tenon, so I'm just going to cut it right here. And I'll get it close, and then I'll saw it off. What's that? Parting tool, yeah. Just a really skinny parting tool. So. That's close enough. Now I'm just going to saw it off. We're going to end up drilling both sides of this, so it's not like you got to get really close because both ends of that's going to go away. This has some pretty nice grain in it too, running through here. There we go. Okay, so we'll take this off for now, and whoops, I'm gonna hide that away, and we'll work on this for just a second. So There's my 1 3/8 that I talked about before. And my tenon, my tenon here is, fairly short. So I'll just so I want this hole that I'm going to drill to be, at least that deep. And let's see, that's about, yep, so it's deeper than that. Be good there. Now, this is another unique size drill bit, and this is a 15/16. So again, it's another kind of specific size that goes along with this. I'm sure whoever made this kit was like, hey, let's make Forstner bits too that are 15/16 and 1 9/16 and 1 1/16. But anyway, so there are a couple of things that kind of are a little bit required to make this. So now on this, oops. Well, once you buy all the Forstner bits, then the pepper mills become a lot cheaper. As long as you get rid of those first, But
that first mill is expensive.
The first mill is expensive. Yeah. Yep. So.
When you buy a lathe, somebody asked me right after I bought my lathe how much it cost to make a bowl. I said, how much was about $8,000.
So we're going to go about. We're going to go 1 3/8, I believe. Yep. Wait. Yep. 1 3/8 plus the depth of the tenon there. So that I drilled there already. So I'm going to take this here. Actually, I'm going to do 1. That's about not quite 3/8. So that'd be 1 3/4 total depth there. And then I'll look here, and that's about just a little bit past the little line that I have right there. So that's what I'll plan on. And this hole is just to accept this piece right here for the top cap. I should just verify on this before I go too deep, that I'm not going to bust out of the top of my cap. I have gotten pretty close once where my Forstner bit just kind of poked right through. I just filled that with a little CA. Nobody will ever know. Okay, so that's about there. Okay, I think we're done with this bit for now, and it's a little bit warm. Okay. Now, if you remember, my tenon's just a little bit, or my hole's a little bit bigger, my tenon there. So now I'm going to open that up a little bit. So this is a, something that, like, until very recently, I just had carbide tools is all I had. And so this is something that you could make with just, might take a little while with something this small, but, you could turn the shape of it. Obviously, you might have a little tear out from the scraper, but it's obviously something that could be done with that. I've done it with that before I got these other tools, but just get this out of the way for a second. And I'm just going to test it right here on the edge. Just try to open this up a little bit. I'll see if that's about the size that I need. Might not have gone far enough, but yeah, still need to go quite a bit more. Yeah, it's actually quite a bit bigger. And I'm just doing it right inside the lip to try to get a real nice fit, so I don't want to go all the way down and then go, oops, I went too big. It's really close there. You can see it's just about there. My lathe at home, the tool rest doesn't slide out that easy, so it's a lot more of a process. This works pretty good though. So that's pretty good. So I'm gonna do that the full depth. Okay, so I'm not quite straight, so that's why it's binding there. It kind of tapers in. Yeah, I think I'll go a little bit wider. So it's important to spend a little time on this, just because this is what's going to make the mill turn, pretty smooth right there. So got just a little bit of wobble, and that's what I'm going to get in that. So all right, so once that's done, I'll slow it down again. And I'm going to go back to finishing. I don't want to sand this a whole ton because it's about the size I want. So I don't really want to do too much to it to make it open any more than it already is, just because I'm already maybe a little looser than I'd like to be. I took out this 180 sandpaper the other day and started using it and realized it's much rougher than the 120 that I was using. So it's probably time to throw away my sandpaper and get a new one. It's flying around. You know, if you're good at like CA, like doing a CA finish or something, CA finish would probably be like ideal. I'm not very good at it, but Steve Hagen, right? Steve does a lot of pens and does CA finishes, and a CA finish would probably be really, really nice on this. So, but I'm not that good. This joint right here is also going to get a lot of use because it's the one that's going to be rubbing on the bottom of the mill. So I'll try to give it a little extra coat. Yep, I just got myself. I know there's a reason why nobody sat in the front row today, at least right in front. Okay, so that part I believe is done. Let me just check on my list to make sure I'm not forgetting anything. All right, so we'll go ahead and take that off. Normally, actually, we're going to leave that there for a minute. This is what we want to do next. So I'll take a paper towel and I'm going to put it in here just to jam chuck that up a little bit, just make it a little tighter. It was a little loose, so I'll use two. There we go. I'll just try to line my grain up as best I can right there. Now, I'm going to finish turning. Okay. See, this is why we check the list. Make sure we're... Okay, so that's going to bring that back up, make it all one piece. I'm just going to tear this off. It'll end up coming off as we cut.
So are you just getting rid of the little step that was created when you cut your...
Yeah, so when I cut that tenon, I don't know if you can see that or not. There's just a little lip there. And so what I'm going to try to do is just make it all smooth so it's just all one, looks all like all one piece. Because my this was going down, and so when I cut that piece out, this one's just slightly lower than that one. So I'm just going to put it all back together. I'm going to just try to do a pass or two and see if I can get it flat. This is where I struggle, so bear with me. So we're a little bit out of round right there, just from moving it around, taking it off, putting it back on, parting it off. So still vibrating just a little bit there, so still a little bump there just with the, let me try to just scrape that down just a little bit. A little bit there. All right, and then you go back to sanding. Unfortunately, I'm kind of like I've heard Wes say many times before, is sanding is punishment for bad turning. I get a lot of punishment. This is, it should be. I ran out. This is my 180 that's like rougher than my 80 that I was using. So I do got a little bump there, but just for purposes of doing this today, I'm not going to worry about it too much. It's just right there. But one of the things on doing this like this is if you had a rotary sander or something, it'd be a lot better to sand it because you're not going to get so many lines against the grain. I've got a lot of dust in the air, but so kind of like when you do pens or stuff like that, there's softer wood and stuff. A lot of times you got to come back here and go with the grain just by hand to try to get out these lines. So, but unfortunately, I still got a lot of tool marks in here. You can still see, but for demonstration purposes, I'm gonna look beyond those and assume that they're not there. So anyway, so this piece right here, assuming we sand it all the way down and it's finished to the what we like, what you're happy with, then it'd be there. So now at this point, you know, if you wanted something like this where it's just a line, I could. If I wanted just something that was like this, what I'd probably do before I put those two together is just sand those corners. And so it kind of defines the line. That's what I did with these. When this was here like this, I sanded around that corner and just knocked off that edge. And when I turn that around to drill that, then I could do that with that. But you can embellish a little bit. So like what I've done with this. And I'm still learning. I'm an amateur. So when I first did this burning, just like a guitar string, I was like, all right, let's just go right here. And I didn't have starting point or anything, and it rolled and moved where I didn't want it and stuff like that. So I have this carbide tip tool, and it's a real sharp pointer. I don't know if you can see that in the picture there, but I'll just make some lines there to define kind of where I want the lines to go. It still is a little bit difficult because you gotta kind of guess how far, try to make it even. You could get it, bust out a ruler and really put it where you want, or you just eyeball it. So I think that one's, there we go. That'll give me a starting point on that. And then I can take this, just hold this tight, get it in that groove. There we go. Try to match them up as much as you can. Oops, see, I went off there. Got a little cramp in my finger there. Alright. I'll just take this back real quick since I did there. Take that little mark off. Okay. Now, go back to my paste. And I'll spin this faster so it'll melt on in there. I'll just kind of block you guys from it. Ooh, warm. One of the things that I personally like to do when it's up here like this, when I take a spindle gouge and I want to cut this flat on there, a lot of times I have a hard time getting that going right there, and it'll catch and pull back, and then I'll have a lot of work to fix my work. And so when it's up here like this, I like to just take a parting tool, and I've already done this on this, but I like to take a parting tool and just put a little ledge on it right there so I don't go in very far to avoid the tear out. And then while it's on here like this, then I can come in here and I already have a ledge to rest my bevel on and put it in there and just get a little starting point for to get it off the edge there. Okay, so we got that done. Now, doing all right on time. Oh yeah. I was like, it's pretty dull looking there. Again, this is just like a friction polish, so we run it kind of fast and get it on there. It'll dry pretty rapidly as it gets hot. So I might normally put another coat or two on there, but like I said, we didn't sand that all the way or anything. So, but get that all the finish to your liking. There we go. It's a little shiny now. My hands are sticky now too. Okay. Then we can take this from here. Pop that off of there. Got all. Normally that doesn't stick like on there that bad, but paper towel. Okay. Then take this off of here. A couple of ways you can do this. If you can, you can bring that in. Oh, it's just maybe just a little bit too small, but if you can get that in there, you can reverse expand out. It is flat, so it's really not, designed to go in there, but you could. The other, let's see here. So he has this adapter. The adapter to get this chuck on there is as big as the chuck. So a lot of times what I'll do here is I got this dowel, it's a 1-inch dowel. Remember, it was a 15/16 hole, so I've sanded that down just a little bit. So to put that in there, bottom that out. Tighten that on there. I can still bring up my tailstock. Oops. I'm going to grab this a little bit smaller tool rest so I can get in there a little bit. Go lower. I'm just going to take this carbide tool and just kind of eat away. I don't want to use the carbide all the way. I don't want to tear out on that end grain going that direction. So I'll come back to a spindle gouge here. I got my bevel here again to right on. This is just jam chucked, so need to be real careful to not take too aggressive a cut or anything here. Yeah, see, I already started wobbling there. Alright, so I may come back to that just now because I want to be able to show you guys how to finish this. Oops. Yeah, I wanted to leave that on there, but that's all right. Okay, so now I got these finger jaws, so I'm going to expand into this. So again, reason to have a real flat base there, so you can expand into that, have it flat out here. It's probably going to be a little off, just because it never lines up straight. And if you remember, we talked about the 1 1/16 bit to give us room for the top piece, this piece to go into. So we're going to do that real quick. So I'm just going to go a little ways just to seat that piece. Not very far. See, we're a little wobbly there, but really is not going to make a difference in this. Probably make it a little bit better even, because it's a little bit more than 1 1/16. A little deeper than that. Really won't matter. Better deeper than not enough. Okay, so that one's done. Now we'll go back to our 1 inch, and this is where we're going to finish off, drilling all the way through to meet our hole that we made on the other side.
What size is that again?
This is a 1 inch, and that's what we did. Same one on the other side that we came, into here-ish.
The one you just did was 1
1
1/16.
1/16, yep.
Pretty small.
Yeah, it's a pretty small difference. All it is because this little piece is just a little bit too big to fit in that 1 inch hole. And if you do 1 inch, you end up sanding it. You end up sanding it to so it glides better. So. Almost there. There it is right there. All the way through. Okay. You can check that by that. So we got a little, I want wobble there. I don't want wobble here. That's pretty stiff, so I'm not going to throw that in there yet because I need to go back to it. But anyway, so that's there. So same thing as before. Go back to this. Just do a light sanding. This is only really going to be seen when they open it up to replace the pepper or salt or whatever you put in there. So really wobbling out there now. Okay. And once again, take the paste. Okay, so about out of time. I might try to see if I can. Yeah, I think this is a better way. So the bottom is now done, with the exception of that piece. So I'll go ahead and pass that around so you guys can take a look at it while I'm finish up the bottom.
So, Jared, are your parts just all friction fit in the whole?
So you can. I'll pass this around. This actually has some little clips on it. There is another tool you can buy to, when you in the bottom, you can go in and just make a little notch right in there without a clip in. I don't do that. I epoxy it. So I'll put just a little bit of epoxy in there. You don't want to put a lot. I put too much before, and then I put too much in there, and I put it all together, and I'm letting it dry, and I grabbed the top and it was like that epoxy was in that mechanism. And acetone works pretty good if it's not dry, if you realize it in time. But yeah, it was a mess. So just a little, and I put the epoxy in the bottom there in that second shelf to get it about right here. Because if this has little holes right there, it'll seep into those holes right there. So you just kind of want to get it that deep, and not enough in there that when you push it in, it just takes it all with it and dumps it all down there. You don't want to do that. And then same thing up here, just a little bit to where it'll line up with this. I have seen online where guys will just take a pair of dikes and just cut off those clips, because they push in pretty tight as they are. But anyway, sometimes I'll do that if it's really, really tight. Just cut off that little clip and then epoxy it in. Either way, but you can buy that tool to make that little groove if you can get it right in the right place and put it up there, but it ain't coming back out. Which it shouldn't come back out, but I always try to dry fit them and stuff like that. So anyway, yeah, good question. What's that?
Why are you using epoxy now?
Just 5-minute epoxy so it's done. I don't know. There you go. Good for plastic on wood. Okay, I might try to get a little bit more of that gone with the tailstock in. Might get a little creative here. Use this again, kind of trim away at that so we can get don't have the mass there. I think I just heard it break off. Here we go. I have a little baby spindle gouge, but I didn't bring it. Might have worked here. Just going to try to take really light cuts to try to keep it somewhat flat there. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty. All right. One last time. It'll round over that edge just a little bit. It's not so sharp. Of course, I had finish on that front side, so it gums up the sandpaper pretty well. Oops. Okay, I go through a lot of paper towels. It's easier. This friction polish dries on the paper towels and makes them pretty stiff too. So. Okay. See, this isn't the first time. I got the, that comes out really easy with that. Okay. Where's the bottom of the mill? Back there? It's got still got some paper towel on here. Usually that doesn't stick that like that, but anyway. So there we go. Now what you do is you take this. Remember, this hole is 1 3/8 above the top of that. So what we could do is just come in here, pop that in there. 1 3/8, maybe I'll do 1 1/4, maybe maybe a little bit, maybe not quite. And then I can take this and I can mark this right there. And then I just take this over, put it in the vise, take the hacksaw, cut it off, and then I would just kind of sand off the top of that, just to make it a little bit easier to go into that top, just beveled, and then we go right in. That's it. So anyway, I'll leave that here. So if you guys want to take a look at it on the break or whatever, it's right there.
Any questions?